For the thousands in attendance and the millions watching around the world, we are live and amplified. So let's get ready to podcast.
Fire it up.
Welcome, everybody, to another live and amplified livecast. I'm your host, Tom Quiet. I'm coming from you live in Waco, Texas. We have a very special guest from my hometown of Chicago, Illinois. We have Javier from Modafoca. How's it going today?
It's going good. Glad to be here.
Glad to have you here. Was glad we could make this work. I was getting a little nervous there towards the end of the workday because we were talking about it briefly with the virus going around. I don't want to say the full name because I hear people are getting flagged by certain companies for saying the full name. So we're going to just stick with virus for now. I thought I was going to end up having to work another long day and have to reschedule everything I had. So, but I'm glad we're here. We're making it happen. And let's talk about, so you're originally from Puerto Rico, right?
Yeah, the band is originally from Puerto Rico.
Okay.
True.
And so, first of all, what's kind of the makeup of the band?
Like, music-wise? Like what?
No. Well, we'll get to that in a minute, but like, it's you, and then how many members are in the band? Who are they? And what do they play?
3 members. Alex Arias, he plays guitar. He's the vocalist, and then I play bass. And our drummer, it's pretty much just like on rotation. Whoever is able to play at that day. We currently have a guy named Chris that plays in various bands, and another guy named Joshua that fills in. So it's just 3. It's a 3-piece for now.
Awesome. And well, first of all, what got you into music? What got you started?
At a young age, I've always been really into music. The middle school I went to had a really great music program, and I started playing trombone like in 6th grade, and then by 7th grade I started playing classical guitar, and then I learned electric, and then when I went to high school, I picked up the upright bass, the classical bass. Mm-hmm. So it's been something that's always been like a main thing in my life, just because it's helped me like through some problems here and there. So it's always been like a way to voice angst or like sadness or anger. So that's been a thriving factor.
Awesome. And you'd mentioned that the band's from Puerto Rico, but you're born and raised in Chicago?
I was raised in Chicago, but I was born in Puebla, Mexico.
Okay, cool. And so how did you what's kind of the history of the band? How did they come from Puerto Rico to Chicago, and then how did you kind of meet them and start playing music with them?
So I met Alex about 2 years ago. He had another band called Baby Bang, and they came to Chicago to play. And I saw a flyer going around about that band, and I thought it was like some really huge band. And I met him at Riot Fest. They were wearing their band shirt. They were about to film a music video. And, after that, we like kept in touch. They played a few shows here, and then they left. About a year later, so last year, he starts messaging me saying that he was going to come to Chicago for a few shows, but he just needed a bassist. He already had a drummer that was set to come with him. So we started talking, exchanging music, and I started playing bass with him. And when he came to visit, he liked the scene, how like diverse it was and how much better it was than Puerto Rico music-wise. Mm-hmm. And he decided to stay here, and we've been playing since then. And it's just been picking up since. last year or September.
Oh wow, that's awesome. And so, whereabouts in Chicago? Because Chicago is a big city. Are you guys on the north side, south side, all over?
We currently live in the south side of Chicago, so like between Little Village and Pilsen.
Mm-hmm.
But when we play, we basically play pretty much everywhere. We don't just stay focused in one area.
Okay,
So we just try expanding as much as we can.
gotcha. I was actually I lived in Chicago Heights for most of my life, so that's like
Oh,
like way south, I guess.
way south,
Yeah,
like Calgary, Met City.
yeah. There you go. Exactly.
Yeah.
Um, so what's your or who are some of your influences as a group collectively?
As a group, I would have to say Rancid and NoFX are one of the bands that drive us to play the style of music we play. But we try putting in more pop punk or
Mhm.
skate punk, so like Pennywise, Operation Ivy. So it's really like the '90s SoCal punk
Okay,
genre that drives us and it
cool,
inspires.
nice. And then who do you personally draw influence from musically?
Um, from a completely different genre. I love metal. So some of my favorite bass players are like Frank Bello from Anthrax or Cliff Burton from Metallica. So
Hmm.
it's completely different, and those are like some of my favorite or most inspirational bass players.
Nice. And how would you guys play like the ska reggae punk style? Is that fair to say?
Yes, a little bit of each.
Okay. And who what or obviously the band was already kind of or was already together before you came in, but how has the band's sound changed since they moved from Puerto Rico and have become full-time Chicagoans, so to speak?
W- from the recordings, you could tell it has more of a pop aspect,
Hmm.
but when we started playing live, it has more of that grungy, like it's more harsh sounding live than it is recording, and I think it just has to do with the chemistry of the band. We are able to like come collectively and make it sound a bit more harsher than it originally was
Gotcha.
recorded.
Gotcha. And you guys currently have an EP out right now, right?
Uh, I believe we have two EPs. Yeah,
Two
two
EPs?
EPs.
Okay.
Yes,
And were you involved with either one of the recordings of those, or was that before you joined the band?
that was before I joined.
Okay. Are you guys currently working towards going into the studio again, or where are you at creatively right now?
Creatively, we have a few songs that we're looking to record in the next few months, but we're just like slowly piecing everything together and like working towards
Oh,
making more music.
gotcha. So will you once you get those recorded, will you release them as singles, or will you wait until you have enough together to release like either another EP or a full length album?
We're gonna focus on doing another EP and then collectively coming again together, picking a few songs and then releasing a whole album.
Okay, awesome. And what's the the independent music scene like in Chicago for anybody that's not really familiar with it?
It's really diverse. I believe we have a bit of everything. Like there's a really strong metal, punk, and like a ska scene.
Hmm.
Um, so you could come any day of the week, and you'll be able to enjoy a nice show, depending on what genre you're into. But more in the summer, spring, it's where it's really thriving, and you'll see a show almost every night if possible.
Nice. And what's your show schedule looking like currently? You what?
Currently, we only have two shows in the upcoming 2 months. So we have a show in April and a show in May.
Okay. And do you guys have plans of doing like a short summer tour, or is everybody kind of working full-time jobs?
Um, we're currently planning on going back to Puerto Rico with me to play a few shows out there,
Okay.
and then we're just gonna do like a small run, probably more towards the end of summer.
Okay.
And we're just looking to playing more festivals and all that, just because that's a prime focus in Chicago. There's always a lot of like Latin, Hispanic music festivals that focus on that.
Yep. Especially in downtown there by downtown, there's always something going on every weekend.
Yeah, pretty much.
And so are you, obviously I'm assuming you're excited to go to Puerto Rico. Have you ever been there?
No, I've never been there, actually. I've only traveled in the United States. I've never actually flown out of the United States. So even though it's considered part of it, I feel like it's an exciting experience.
Yeah. It's even though it's a territory, it's completely different. It's a different feel. So, you know. So what do you do when you're not playing music? Like what do you do in your free time when you're not playing music?
When I'm not playing music, I mostly like spend time with my girlfriend, or I'm just playing video games. So it's really like either work, music, or one of those two. And it's something that I feel like once you get focused too much on one thing, like it kind of takes away from it. So like you slowly start losing inspiration. So what we try doing is like as a band, we'll hang out here and there and like try to focus on not talking about music as much, because it kind of takes away from it. So when we do come together to focus on that, we come together and we have a bunch of ideas like for songs, and it just works so better that way.
Yeah. Try and build like an authentic friendship outside of the band, so when you get back into playing, it's, oh hey, this is my friend, not, oh hey, this is our drummer,
Yeah, and that's the best part of it, because I consider Alex and Chris more of a friend than anything else. Because Alex like basically doesn't know too many people here, so we're really close, and I feel like that bond we share helps us out much more, because we're able to trust in each other more. Like we know we're not going to let each other down.
Yep. Exactly. And then what do you do for work? Does everybody in the band work, or is it just a?
Yeah, we all have our 9 to 5s pretty much.
Okay.
What I do, I'm a mechanical engineer. And
Okay.
A bassist part-time, and Alex does his own thing here and there. He does those gig jobs. Like I believe he's doing Instacart right now.
Okay.
And he's a drum teacher. So.
Oh wow. Awesome.
We're all focused on our jobs too.
Yeah, that's awesome. And how does a band stand out in Chicago?
It's so hard because there's so many bands, and I feel like that's the hardest thing, because so many bands sound exactly like other bands. Like I know we would go to shows and we'll be like, oh, this band sounds like The Clash, they sound like the Sex Pistols. And I think it's just having new ideas, like looking at what all these other bands did and then just improving on it. And as hard as it is, it's really, really rare to find. And I know there's a few bands out here that are able to do that. And I think it's just not sticking to what influences you.
Gotcha.
Trying to sound differently from them.
Nice. And so would you say that the Chicago scene is a little bit more competitive, or is there a certain level of respect amongst the different bands?
As much as I hate to say it, I think it's really competitive. Everybody basically looks out for themselves.
Yeah.
And just leaves no room for other bands to succeed. I feel like a lot of the bands that are like popular in Chicago don't look out for like smaller bands. Like I know we've had the hardest time trying to get on shows just because we were a newer band, and now after playing a few shows, we started making a name for ourselves. But if we didn't look out for ourselves, we would not be able to be successful. And I think that's like the mentality a lot of bands have, and that's what I'm going to this solve. I want to help out as many bands as I want, as I can. I try to go out to as many shows and support as many bands by buying merch, and I think it's that mentality that's rare in Chicago that a lot of bands don't have.
Yeah, exactly. It's and that's the growing up where I did down in the south suburbs, there wasn't that many bands to speak of. Like there was always the one band down the street from where you lived, but they were playing at the local American Legion or VFW hall, and they'd get the occasional gig, but it was always for fun. They weren't ever trying to make it like a full-time thing.
Yeah.
And so that's really was my exposure being younger in Chicago was just, playing in a band was something people did for fun. And then as I kind of grew up and started actually going to shows, it was, oh no, there's a whole thing behind this, you know. And so I'm not overly familiar with how the independent scene works. And so this is definitely all new to me as far as like how the scene works in Chicago.
Yeah.
So how far will you guys do like little weekend trips up to like Milwaukee if you got a gig, or are you primarily focused on building your name in Chicago right now?
I feel like in Chicago we're somewhat set, and we're focusing on it just going like a state away, like maybe doing a 6-7 hour drive to a different state and playing there. And we just want to start branching out in that aspect as well, because I feel like we're kind of recognized here as a band already.
Nice. Yeah. And being in Chicago, you're pretty, like, I mean, it would be a little bit harder to do those kind of trips on the weekend in the winter because you just never know when that lake effect or that severe snow is going to hit, and then you're stuck wherever you're at.
Yeah, we had that happen to us. We were supposed to play in Villa Park, which is about a 45-minute drive, and from the night before, I believe we did get a really bad snowstorm, so the show we were supposed to play got canceled. And it just had to do with that. You never know like how Chicago weather is going to turn out.
Yeah, exactly. And then, but like you were saying, making a 6-7 hour drive, you can get pretty far being from Chicago, like 7 hours. You could be easily to Milwaukee in less than 6. You could be in Minneapolis, I think is like right around 7, maybe a little bit less. You can be down in St. Louis. I don't remember how far Detroit is, but I think it's about a 7-hour drive.
Yeah, Detroit's about like 7 or 8, I believe.
Yeah. And so there's all these major cities that you can be at. And that's why Chicago's an interesting place. And trying to build your name in Chicago, it's easy to spread out from there. And then there's always new bands coming in, because Chicago's a popular stop for the touring bands that are like the independent touring bands.
That's correct. It's true.
So what's one thing we really, first of all, how long have you, how long have you been playing music just by yourself before you joined Modafoca?
About 11 years, 11, 12 years.
Okay.
I've been,
And were
yeah,
you in bands previously, or is this your first like official band?
I would say I've been in band previously, but I think this is my first like band I've taken seriously to actually like get somewhere.
Okay.
Like every other band I've been in, it's just been like, oh, it's just a bunch of friends wanting to make music,
Okay.
and
So
it was never like long-term aspiration to it.
gotcha. So it was like more of a jam band type scenario.
Pretty much.
Okay. Cool. And what was different about this band than all the other bands that you had been in? Was it because they were already established, or?
It was more so because I actually liked the music that they were writing. Like I've always when I join bands, it always comes as I like what they're doing and I want to be a part of it.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say it was more so like the freedom, like I would get with this band. Like I'm able to like he would give me the music and I would be able to like change parts here and there to make it more my style, and that's like a freedom I never really got in other bands. It was more of a, oh, here's the music, this is how we want you to play it. And I think it just got boring to me to have to play the same thing. So it's just that aspect.
Gotcha. That makes sense. And so I know you've only been with the band for about a year,
Mm-hmm.
but like what's the goals and aspirations of the band?
Pretty much just to play and not have to work anymore. Like our ultimate goal is probably to get on some Californian record label, probably like Fat Records or Hellcat Records, and just be able to play everywhere and not have to worry about working. Like we love what we do, and that's what we want to do full time.
Gotcha. And what's like the dream venue, city, state that you would absolutely love to play in?
Personally, for myself, I would love to play in Mexico just because their punk ska scene there is glorious, and I would want to be able to play where I was born in Puebla. And I feel like Alex would love to play in Puerto Rico, where he was born, in like a bigger venue than what we have coming up. And it's just like being able to go back to where we were from, and at least being able to show something that we made for ourselves.
Nice. That's awesome. Um, one thing that we really like to do in Live and Amplified is we want to try and help the younger musicians, try and give them some advice. So my question to you is, what advice do you have for younger musicians just starting out?
An advice I would give to them, I know I see that question get posted a lot on Facebook, and one advice they always give that I always go against is waiting to have a mature mind. I feel like if you want to do this seriously, like the best advice I could give is just to start as young as you can. Because the hardest part of being a musician or being in a band is getting people to come out to your shows. And it's so much easier being a high schooler convincing people in your school to go to your shows. Because the biggest problem is being a band that's accustomed to playing backyard shows and then doing that transition to venues. Like, not a lot of people want to go to venues. And I feel like if you're pushing that to like people of your age, being 15, 16, like when they get to that age, when they're able to go to 21 plus bars and all that, they're more likely to come out because of that history they've had with your band. And that's something that I feel is like the most important, and it's easier to talk to people your age. Like at my age, I'm 24, turning 25. It's so hard. It's much harder to network with other bands because you hardly see them only like at occasional shows, and it's harder to talk to them when there's like a band playing or there's loud music going through the speakers. And I feel like that's the number one thing: start as young as you can and network with people your age.
Wonderful. Yeah, that's perfect advice. And have you or we talked about this a little bit earlier, that you haven't recorded or you haven't recorded with this band, correct?
Correct.
Have you ever stepped into the recording studio previously?
I have. I used to play bass for a band called Sapphire, and I helped them record a few bass lines. They used to play ska punk,
Uh-huh.
so I used to help them out with that. And besides that, I really haven't had much studio work except on my own, where I'll plug in my bass to a recording software, and that's about it.
Awesome. And what was the experience like for you going into the studio the few times that you did?
It's a nice feeling, but I think there's more pressure towards it when you're paying somebody to record it, because every retake you do, it's just like an extra $30-$40 you have to pay because of the time you're taking up. So
Yep.
It's really stressful.
Yep, understood completely. But yeah, I don't want to take up too much of your time tonight because I know it's a Friday night and I'm sure you got a bunch of things you'd rather be doing. But one thing I want to ask, and it's kind of a nice, vague question because I phrase it this way to let you have a little bit of fun with it and kind of take it where you want to take it. But why music?
Why music? That's a really, really big way to ask. But I think music, to me, it's like the ultimate way to express what you're feeling. Like, I know painting, you paint something and people are able to get how you were feeling looking at it. Or poetry, you're able to express emotions the way you speak. But I think music has the best way, because you could have a nice melody that's joyful, but you could have the darkest lyrics to express like dark times, or you could have really angry music, but the saddest lyrics. And I think it just gives you so much freedom to express how you really feel. And I think that's what always has attracted to me, because sometimes people go through the hardest things and it's harder to express through words or through image. But playing a sad guitar riff or a sad piano song, it just gives you the best way to release those emotions that you can't release normally.
Awesome. And then you said you're the bass player, correct?
Yes.
What was it? And then, you'd mentioned that you'd picked up the classical bass in high school, and then then you transitioned into a more traditional rock bass.
Yes.
Okay. What was it about the bass that drew or that interested you?
Well, the reason I picked it up was I used to be in the high school orchestra, so I kind of got familiar with the classical bass.
Mm-hmm.
But I used to be a guitarist, and I had surgery on my left hand, my left arm, where really tight movements or fast movements were really hard to do. So I had to pick up the bass just because of the bigger fret.
Oh wow.
The bigger fretboard. So that's how I transitioned to playing bass.
Gotcha. And then how did the high school band, how did that kind of transform your musical style?
It just helped because I'm able to like listen to like specific keys, or if they tell me, oh, I'm playing on this fret, I'm able to like think of something in my head without like really having to like play it out. And I think it was just more so the classical training that helped me develop a more precise way of playing bass.
Okay. And um, so did playing the good, like, because I've never, or does playing the guitar, was that an easy transition over to bass, or was there a little bit of learning curve for you?
It was a bit easier just because when I learned guitar, I learned how to read sheet music.
Okay.
So when you're playing guitar, you learn both the bass and the treble clef. So you basically have like the basic information you need to play bass, and it's way easier in my opinion to play bass than guitar.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
There's less to worry about.
Gotcha. And then, so what's something that you want, or what's for the people that have never seen Modafoca play live? What's a show like? What can people expect when they come see you live?
Oh God, you're gonna pretty much see us 90% of the time drunk before we play, or drunk or you'll see us drinking when we play. But as much fun as we have, that's the ultimate goal for us, is just to have fun, and we want the crowd to like have fun with us. So like, if we're drinking, we'll encourage the crowd to drink if they're of age, and it's just a really fun time because 90% of the time, the crowd we have are not native Spanish speakers, so they don't know we're playing or we're singing in Spanish until we tell them, and it's just a fun experience
Oh,
to the people that haven't seen us before.
awesome. But and you said you've only got a couple of shows announced, and then you're planning to do a short run in Puerto Rico, and then you're going to do like a short Midwest type thing towards the end of
Yeah.
the summer.
Yes.
Cool. Um, yeah, that, like, I mean, that's really all I wanted to cover today. Like, I wanted to. It's weird because we've talked a couple of times, and just trying to get this interview set up has been a little bit of a chaotic situation in and of itself, with all the virus things going on. Work has been
Mhm.
crazy, but I'm really glad that you gave me the time to sit down and chat with you. What's I guess the final question is, what's your end goal musically? Like, I know we talked earlier about like the hopes for the band, but do you have a personal end goal? Like, I know you'd mentioned about just being able to do it full time, but I'm kind of more curious about your personal aspirations in the music industry, so to speak.
What I want to pretty much end up doing is just giving my parents something to be proud of, because they've always been really supportive in like my musical like explorations. Like they bought me my first guitar, they bought me my first bass, and they came out to our first show we had in Chicago. So I just want to give them something to be like, oh, all the time, all the money he's put in to this came out in something good. So that's pretty much what I feel like I want to end up achieving.
Awesome. And then where can everybody kind of track the band when you guys start releasing new music, and then all your show information, or where they can find all your show information?
So for streaming, we're pretty much on every streaming service, Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon, and it's under Modafoca, so it's Modafoca, one word. And for shows, we have our Facebook page, which is Modafoca Music, where we put and there you could find our website, which I think is modafoca.bandstugo.com.
Mm-hmm.
And we're on Instagram as well as Modafoca Music. So yeah, on there we constantly update, we constantly post new music whenever we record it. So that's the best way to follow us, just on Facebook and Instagram and Spotify.
Awesome. And I'm guessing you get this question all the time, but I'm going to go ahead and ask it. Where does the name of the band come from?
It's from a meme, actually. It's a meme from Puerto Rico. They have a seal screaming out Modafoca, and I think Alex just liked that so much that it stuck with him, and he named it like that. So it's like a play on words. It's
Yeah.
like we translated from Spanish to English, it just means a seal with style, but it really means motherfucker. So.
Yep. Yep. I mean, I got that part, but I didn't know if there was like a reason why that was ended up being the name of the band or.
Yeah, it's just from a meme, pretty much.
Awesome. But I want to thank you again so much for sitting down and chatting with us. It's been an absolute blast, and hopefully, I'll be up in Chicago in it's either September or October, so we'll have to talk off podcast about getting together and seeing if we could set up a jam session or something.
Oh, for sure. We'll love to be a part of that.
Yeah. And I mean, I know September's kind of hard because I think that's pretty peak season for a lot of the music festivals in Chicago because it's not too hot, not too cold.
I think that's we're supposed to get together with a event planner for a festival that happens in September. So hopefully it doesn't end with that.
Okay, perfect. But other than that, thank you again so much. Thank you everybody for tuning in, and we will see you guys later.